got it. And even they had to buy it, right?
Yeah.
At a discounted price, but they had to buy it.
Assuming nothing can be as wacky as the wine collection coverage.
I would say the choice to donate my insurance coverage.
Hi, we have Sunil Setlur with us today. Sunil Setlur is currently the head of HR for Mindtickle. Prior to this, Sunil was in Singapore and he was heading the GoTo group. Prior to that, Sunil has worked with a lot of companies we all aspire to work with, namely Accenture, Amazon, Google, you name it, and he has been there, done that. With that in mind, I will ask Sunil to quickly do a little deeper introduction of himself, and then from there we'll pick up.
Hey, thanks, Kunal. Thanks for having me here. And for the very warm introduction. I have spent a lot of my time in HR, and I've had a chance to work with aspirational names. But my favorite one is always the company I'm working at right now.
So Sunil, you have been there, done that. Wanted to check with you, right? Today there is a concept of total rewards. It has always been there, but today it's getting a lot more formalized. Mm-hmm. Now, with that in construct, do you actually believe that total rewards is important? And then, if it is so, how do you have you seen that shaping up in your career? How you have seen that happening, typically in various stages of startup?
Short answer, yes. It is important. I think it used to be a differentiated thing companies did, but now it's the floor, right? Now everyone walks in the door expecting to have a total rewards experience.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think things have evolved, things have changed. Two things influence innovation, or I would say even like hype around total rewards. One is if the talent supply is super constrained, companies try to distinguish themselves in different ways. And one of the ways they do that is outside of the compensation, which everyone can provide. What other experiences you can supply? So,
yeah. So you're saying that today a great experience to an employee at his or her various stages of the career, employee life cycle, is also being curated, and companies are focusing towards that to ensure that they create a holistic value proposition.
Sure. I think a way to think about it is what was aspirational at one point has become baseline now. So today, no one. I remember when I started getting equity or getting stocks in the company you're working for was like a super aspirational thing. Only the senior most people in the company got it, and even they had to buy it, right, at a discounted price, but they had to buy it, and it was a very big deal. Now it's par for the course. Like most startups, most early stage companies provide that at a very like lower level in the organization, or deeper in the org. So.
No, absolutely. In fact, today when I see some of the overall reward strategy, and we typically do that work in and out, right, with various of our clients, we realized that companies are going very granular, and yet they want to hold the flexibility to offer that to an employee. For example, what is a need for a 24-year-old person is very different from a need of a 48-year-old person, right? And at various life stages, the benefit requirements would be very different. Their compensation pay mix requirement would be very different, right? And companies are typically looking at very great and wacky ideas today to shape that up. And that is where our job becomes a lot more challenging and it becomes a lot more interesting, right? Do you also see that happening in the industry these days?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we all aspire to that model that Netflix pioneered, where it's super flex comp, where you could decide which pay elements went in. So, I think it's definitely happening. I think again, like I said, there's a baseline expectation that the components of compensation everyone provides, or a lot of people provide. So that's the baseline expectation. Now the question is, how do I differentiate compensation and compensation practices in a way that's meaningful to me as an individual? I may be 48, but I may not have a kid. I may not have a family, and my risk appetite may be through the roof. But I may value time. I may value freedom.
But that makes things very difficult for an HR head, let's say, that you always have to juggle with so many variables at any point of time that you will have to prioritize and reprioritize things and make things super relevant all the time, right? Is it not very tiring, or is it not very challenging, and how do you cope up to that, right? What do you say no to say a yes to?
That's a very broad question. I'm going to restrict myself to the compensation dimension. So I think you have to construct things in a modular way. It has to be plug and play. When you're managing an organization of a couple of hundred people, you can be very custom, you can be very focused. Affordability is not as much of a consideration. It's still a consideration, but it's not a significant driving factor. But when you're dealing with a scale of hundreds of thousands, then you need to institutionalize, then you need to put systems in place and processes in place. And when you put big systems and infrastructure in place, you're constrained by what that infrastructure can do.
Right.
So, and then you have to deal with legacies. If you're an older company, if you're at the scale of hundreds of thousands, you're an older company, you've got a policy you, let's say, put in place 20 years ago, and you've evolved that policy, you've added it, you now have a pet leave policy, which you didn't have 20 years ago. And you have an accrual policy that you didn't have 20 years ago. But you have all this infrastructure you put in, HRMS systems, like hundreds of thousands of employees have been compensated a certain way for many, many years. So change management becomes slow and hard and that much more challenging. So I think thinking of new things is relatively simpler. Deploying it in a context becomes harder.
Right. And then you actually answered my next question. You're reading my mind. It was actually about what startup gets right and what an enterprise organization gets right, and they have their own challenges to deal with. But I think you covered it really well. Just changing gears a bit, right? We have seen 2021 just during COVID and after COVID, right? A great hiring spree, right? People were getting whatever they wanted and all that, and everything came to a crash in a very shorter period of time. So I believe the cycles of change have become very steeper now, right? Things are moving very fast and coming down also equally faster. With that in focus, do you believe that looking at a longer rewards strategy, a wholesome rewards strategy, is important? Because otherwise, if you can't have because today cost priorities have taken over in most startups, and then becoming profitable is the golden P word, right? Profit is the whereas I think 3 years back, and I'm asking this because you have worked in great startups, you have consulted great startups, right? 3 years back, the G word, the growth word was the thing, right? So that is where people wanted to ensure that grow at whatever cost, right? Throw money and get things done. And the problem was that money was being thrown at every single opportunity and problem, right? And that was the only solver, right? But that came crashing down. You think the larger ecosystem has learned maybe any lessons out of it? Maybe just top 2 or 3 lessons which you think will be a long-lasting one for the time being.
I think an entire generation of companies, an entire generation of founders started companies in a very strange moment in our history, right? Capital has never been so cheap ever before. Like between 2011 and 2020, like it was like capital was incredibly cheap. Like interest rates were like people were paying you money to take money, right? So I think a lot of it's called the zero interest rate phenomenon or the low interest rate phenomenon. So a lot of companies, a lot of practices, a lot of compensation philosophies that emerged during this time, I would call a ZIRP phenomena, zero interest rate phenomena, right? So have lessons been learned? Yes. I think when companies are now being asked to be real businesses, you can't just be a growth business, and you're not being subsidized. What does that look like? And it's a very challenging thing to solve for.
I believe in the last, and this is the right time for people to go back, and they've already done that because they're very, very smart. I've seen a lot of founders who have actually focused on a lot of growth earlier. They always knew that if they need to trigger their profitability switch somewhere, they will do that, right? They just need to trigger that, but the priorities were very different. But I believe that, and me being a founder myself, I believe now that the profitability playbook is getting written in some form and fashion, that now people know what not to do a lot more diligently. There was a time when the VC playbook was getting written in terms of how to raise money. There was a time where the growth playbook was written, how to grow at any cost. And now I believe the profitability playbook is getting written, right? So with all that in mind, you will see that in the next 2 or 3 years, very strong, robust, true, genuine businesses which will survive this next 2 or 3 years will come out becoming like real diamonds, like,
Yeah,
which are
absolutely.
strong growth, profitable, investment worthy, right?
Yes.
I have a prophecy saying that in 2028 we'll see quite a few IPOs coming. The IPO journey is still happening, right? Quite a
Yes.
few companies are anyways lining up for IPO, but I
Yes.
feel you will see tremendous numbers of new companies will list because they are profitable.
Yeah.
They have got the right operations in place, their right
Yeah.
SOPs in place, they have right people in
Yeah.
place, right team in place, and they have done it following robust playbooks out there, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
love your optimism.
yeah.
It's very founder of you.
Yeah, founder of me, right? No, absolutely. Now, because we are talking about total rewards, right? I believe that it can never be complete without having great health and wellness programs in place, right?
Right.
Because that is one of the great ways a company shows that they reach out to an individual, to an employee,
Yeah.
beyond them, which is about catering to their family, to their personal needs, and all of that, right?
That's right.
And health and well-being and insurance is one of the biggest thing, right? Do you think that post-COVID, and because COVID now is
Yeah.
like a distant phenomena, people, if you ask them that, do you remember those times, people will remember those times, but you suddenly saw that in a flick of a thing, like a Thanos thing, right?
Yeah.
COVID vanished.
Yeah.
Right. But did the priority on health and wellness vanished?
I think the focus has diminished. Yes,
Diminished, yeah.
and that's driven by a couple of things. I think one, I think companies were okay to take the hit on productivity and mind space when everyone else was taking the hit on productivity and mind space, and now we've reached that point. Like you said, it's a perfect storm, right? You've converged with a difficult market, harder to access capital, needing to grow without the usual tricks that you used to use, and now you're the human part of it, which is the people capacity, is also not ramping up as quickly because everyone's focused on health and wellness and burnout and like fear and COVID and security and all that. But that it is going to affect how businesses work.
After COVID is the term life insurance premiums, because it got really hardened and it spiked up, right? And it was becoming very difficult for organizations to take up a group plan, right? Because the reinsurers have all backed out.
That's right.
Right, globally.
Yes.
And it was becoming humongously difficult for any one of us, being a rewards professional, to get a best term life cover, right? I think that has bettered a lot, because I think the organization, most of the insurance companies are getting reinsured also. The rates have also come down. So that is one thing which has been bettering, and organizations have now realized that they need to cover themselves up, layer themselves up a lot more on insurance, either through them, or they get a subsidized plan, or they get a better vendor, all of it. And ensuring that the focus on healthcare is still there. But what has happened, the precautionary measures, right? The wellness precautionary measures have all gone down. People have conveniently forgotten that, right? At least I have not seen it. Like in wherever I go, I don't see that, right? So that's gone down. But a couple of more areas we want to touch base on, right? Because we are focusing on rewards today. I think, as you rightly said, flexibility is required. A future work has to be imbibed. Compensation is managed in a different ways, in a different platforms, and all that, right? Today, when you look at a platform to manage rewards, typically, what are your expectations from a platform?
I am actually, that's the thing. Like, rewards tech today is not platformized. You get bits and pieces. Like, you use something for managing equity, something for managing base pay, something for managing offers, something for managing offboarding. So I think that platformization is a big piece of it. But also, I think I always compare an organization's total rewards and compensation strategy to a finely tailored suit, right? Everybody has a suit. But it's tailored to you. Your suit is your suit. Like, someone else wearing it will feel awkward in it, right? So it has to be customized to you. And I think platforms, especially software platforms, make that challenging, because the assumption of software is this is the way you need to do it, and the ability to deviate from it is limited. Right? So if you have a crazy rewards philosophy, you'll find it very hard to find a software component
which matches to that.
So I think platforms that have high modularity, comprehensiveness, will really make a difference in how organizations are able to convey the value proposition of their total rewards strategy. So otherwise, it's going to be they'll get your platform. You're good for offers, you're good for base pay and bonus, the cash components of things. But for benefits, I'll use
something
else, so equity will use something else.
Something else.
So that all of that data coming in together, and being able to tell the story the way you want it told. I think that's the challenging part.
So we have a quick rapid fire now, right? Quick rapid fire. Okay. Good. Sunil, so I have 10 questions.
10. Wow.
10, but rapid fires, right? Okay. If you could create a new unconventional employee benefit, what would that be?
That's not a rapid fire. I would say the choice to donate my insurance coverage to whoever I want.
Wow. That's unique. Outside of the organization as well.
Anybody in the world.
Anybody in the world, right?
Yeah.
So you have insurance points and you just donate those insurance points and that gets converted into an insurance policy for somebody.
That's right.
Wow. That's crazy good. Okay. What's the most unusual request you have received regarding compensation? It could be from anybody, from a founder, from an employee, from a stakeholder, anybody.
I think I had an employee. He was a very passionate leader of a business. We were going through a headcount rationalization exercise, and he basically said, "I want you to zero out my comp and save a few roles." And I thought he was being hyperbolic, as people tend to be emotional in these situations, but he was being dead serious.
Wow.
And I said no, and then he went above me to the CEO and said, "I want to donate my salary because I want to keep these jobs in the company."
Nice. Great. Again, you must have seen some very creative salary negotiations, right? When you make an offer and all that. Just tell us one quick instance where you have seen a very creativity coming from your stakeholder to negotiate a salary.
This was actually a candidate, and he knew we were very, very desperate to get him on, or we were very eager to get him on rather. And he basically gave us a very difficult choice. It's like he had a very extensive art and wine collection, and he wanted us to pay for insurance, shipping, and everything in totality. And that bill was massive. So he went back and forth, and he finally said, you guys are not ponying up. What I went to him and said, what can we do? He said, you could convert some of this into cash and I'll figure out a local storage solution for myself. So
you did that.
That's what we did.
That's quite an ask, right? Okay. Now, if you have to build an HR team, okay, and a team full of celebrities, right? It could be celebrities, right? From anywhere in the world, right? Who would be your HR head?
Ooh, celebrities. Has to be like Obama or something.
Your HR head.
Yeah.
You'll manage it with all diplomacy.
Yeah, it has to be someone like Obama, because you need somebody who can communicate and speak beautifully and simplify things.
Who would be your rewards head?
Oh, that's a tough one. Who would be my rewards head? It would be that's a tough one. Rishi Sunak. Staying on theme. Staying on theme of world leaders.
World leaders, nice. And who can manage the performance management for your company?
Oh, that's tough. It would probably be I don't know, someone like Modi, because fantastic execution. And fantastic focus on results and goals.
Yeah.
So you need that in person driving it.
And who would be your talent acquisition head? Who can get people for you, the talent for you?
Who is Shashi Tharoor?
Shashi Tharoor, oh, nice.
Love the way he communicates.
Oh, nice. Okay, choose one. Okay.
Yeah.
If you have to choose one.
Yeah.
For yourself, okay, just one. Large bonuses versus quirky perks versus equity.
Assuming everything's going well, I'd pick equity.
You pick equity.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I'm assuming large wealth creation opportunity.
Yes. I mean, bonuses, everything else you've described can be taken away.
Equity. Well, the most unexpected thing an employee has asked in a compensation package. I'm assuming nothing can be as wacky as the wine collection coverage. Right. Okay. If you have to automate one HR process overnight, okay, what would that be?
A process or a cluster of processes?
Cluster of processes.
Everything analytical, anything right from passive sentiment analysis to like, if there was an AI module I could plug in to all my databases and that could automate all analytics, that's what I would do. Because that's the single most important needle moving thing you can have in the function.
Nice. And one process you want, if you have an option, you will take away right away. You will say that this is the process which is redundant in HR. You don't want to do this. Process, policy, whatever.
I would actually be a little provocative and say the HR team shouldn't exist. I think you have a group of people, you could call them whatever, operations, business operations or whatever, who architect frameworks and solutions. And they're part of general business operations. And the stuff that the HR organization gets asked to do today should go to where the ownership is, which is with the employee, the manager, the leader. And that should just be a natural way of working. Like you don't need a third party sort of where you outsource a bunch of responsibilities to thinking about it. So I think that's what I would. It's like if I had a genie and it could grant me a wish. If it could do that, then I think that'll be like a needle moving outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And something on the HR tech side you have recently seen, not naming the product, but something which you are really excited about. You are seeing that this should come up and solve this problem for your organization or for the larger HR.
Yeah, I'm very excited by a whole suite of single use case products, but they're going to expand, which is using generative AI to do things around training. So things like coaching managers, things like training you to give feedback, training you to receive feedback. So there's training you to, it's kind of like your buddy, coach, mentor all at once. There's a lot of products out there at varying stages of maturity that offer that, and I'm really excited for that because it's going to be such a game changer in terms of building capability. Like like today we have these traditional top-down instructor-led, like module-led programs. Tomorrow, imagine just an entirely custom package for you, where this entity learns everything about you and tells you what to do to be effective. I really, really think that's something I'm excited about.
And it reaches to the end user faster, and it's a lot more meaningful, curated, and then people also learn from a very early age of their life, right, in a career. So what happens by the time they actually take up a people management role or something, they're already well curated, people managers, right, who understand things, right?
That's
so
exactly
Otherwise, these courses would be humanly led, limited number of seats and all that, right? But now you have an AI bot who is coaching you to that, right?
Learning where it's needed.
It's needed, right?
So we typically invest all our learning dollars in the people who are already performing really well.
Right.
Versus people who may need it. Like there may be like a skill deficiency or a context deficiency.
Right.
So that's something I'm really excited by.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So thanks, Sunil, for making time on the Saturday afternoon and meeting us, right? It was always a pleasure. It has always been a pleasure, right? Hearing you. I think we got some great insights. I think our viewers got some great insights. We would want to see you more often. Okay. So let's keep having this discussion on. But no, thanks a lot for making time and coming for this podcast. I think our viewers will benefit a lot out of this, right?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's great being here.